The massive Vornax warship appeared suddenly in Earth's orbit on a quiet Tuesday morning. Its dark hull absorbed sunlight rather than reflecting it, making it seem like a hole in space itself. Global panic ensued as communication systems worldwide broadcast emergency alerts. Military forces around the planet mobilized, though none had weapons designed for extraterrestrial threats. Commander Tak stood on the bridge of the unyielding Dominance, studying the blue planet below with detached interest. His tall, muscular frame was already encased in the legendary Vornax battle armor that had become his second skin through 17 planetary conquests. The glossy black surface captured no reflections, with only thin lines of pulsing blue energy marking the seams between plates. "Analysis complete," Commander, reported Officer Hannah, her four-fingered hand moving across the control panel. "The inhabitants possess nuclear capabilities, but no significant orbital defenses. Their technological development rates them as a Class 3 civilization, primitive but approaching the threshold of interstellar travel potential." Tak nodded. "Predictable. Prepare the scout vessel. I will lead the initial assessment personally." "Is that necessary, Commander?" Hannah asked. "Our drone's cold. I prefer direct observation," Tak interrupted. "The Supreme Commander expects thorough reports, not sensor readings." The truth was that Tak enjoyed first contact missions. There was something satisfying about watching a species realize their place in the cosmos, below the Vornax. His battle armor had never failed him, had never even been scratched by enemy weapons. It made him fearless, perhaps even careless. 3 hours later, the Vornax scout ship descended through Earth's atmosphere, its cloaking technology avoiding early detection until it was too late for humans to prepare. The vessel selected a landing site near a mid-sized town called Oakridge, small enough to isolate, but large enough to make an impression when the Vornax took control. Inside a classroom at Oakridge Elementary School, young Sue heard the emergency sirens and looked up from her science project. The teacher, Mr. Kim, tried to maintain calm as he ushered children toward the designated shelter area. Sue lingered behind, quickly stuffing her notebook and small electronics kit into her backpack. She had been working on sound wave experiments all semester, and she wasn't going to leave her research behind, aliens or not. "Sue, hurry up," Mr. Kim called from the hallway. The girl ran to join the others, but her curious mind was already spinning with questions about the visitors. At the edge of town, General Park directed military vehicles into position as the alien craft settled in an open field. Through binoculars, he watched the seamless hull of the ship reconfigure itself, opening to reveal a ramp. 3 figures emerged, tall, humanoid but clearly not human, their bodies covered in articulated armor that seemed to absorb the sunlight around it. "Hold positions," Park ordered into his radio. "No aggressive moves." The central figure, taller than the others, stepped forward confidently. Commander Tak surveyed the primitive vehicles and weapons aimed in his direction. His helmet analyzed the projectile weapons, energy output of their vehicles, and even the body temperature and heart rates of the humans surrounding them. Everything confirmed what the ship's sensors had reported. These humans posed no threat. "Attention inhabitants," Tak's voice boomed through his translator, amplified to reach all ears. "I am Commander Tak of the Vornax Empire. Your planet has been selected for incorporation into our dominion. Resistance is unnecessary and inadvisable." General Park stepped forward, hands raised in a universal gesture of peace. "We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations. I am General Park of the United Earth Defense Force. We request dialogue before any incorporation discussions." Tak tilted his head slightly, the gesture barely visible through his imposing helmet. These humans were like all other species. They would begin with diplomacy, then resort to violence when they realized the terms were non-negotiable, and finally surrender when they understood the futility of fighting the Vornax. "Dialogue is acceptable," Tak responded, "though the outcome is predetermined." While the military established a perimeter around the landing site, Sue and her classmates huddled in the school's basement shelter. Unlike the other children, who watched emergency broadcasts with fear. Sue was fascinated. The news showed distant footage of the aliens, and Sue studied their movements and technology with keen interest. Their armor looks like it connects at the joints differently than our spacesuits. She whispered to herself, making quick sketches in her notebook. Back at the landing site, negotiations deteriorated quickly. The Vornax terms were simple. Earth would provide resources and labor to the Empire. And in exchange, humans would be allowed to continue existing under Vornax rule. This is unacceptable, General Park stated firmly. Earth is sovereign and self-governed. We can discuss trade and cultural exchange, but not submission. Tak had heard variations of this response on countless worlds. To demonstrate the inevitability of our position, I offer a demonstration. He stepped forward, beyond the protection of his fellow soldiers. Your military may use any weapons at your disposal against me. When you see the futility of resistance, we will continue negotiations more productively. General Park hesitated. You're asking us to attack you. I am offering you knowledge, Tak replied. Knowledge of where your species stands in relation to the Vornax Empire. After conferring with higher authorities, General Park reluctantly agreed to the demonstration. He ordered a graduated response, starting with standard firearms and escalating as needed. Civilians were evacuated from the immediate area, but many watched from safer distances, including news crews broadcasting globally. Unknown to the adults, Sue had slipped away from the shelter. Her natural curiosity and lack of fear drove her to get closer to the action. She found a hidden spot in a drainage ditch with a clear view of the alien commander. Begin, Tak announced, standing perfectly still in the open field. The first volley of bullets struck his armor with visible impacts, but no penetration. The rounds simply dropped to the ground, some flattened, others seemingly vaporized on contact. Tak didn't move an inch. Continue, he ordered. Tank rounds followed, then portable missile launchers. Each impact created impressive explosions and smoke, but when it cleared, Tak remained unmarked and unmoved. His armor gleamed in the sunlight without so much as a scuff. From her hiding place, Sue watched with scientific interest rather than fear. When a high-frequency targeting system activated before the launch of an experimental sonic weapon, Sue noticed something odd. The armor seemed to ripple almost imperceptibly. No one else appeared to notice, as the weapon itself failed to harm the alien, but Sue quickly wrote notes and made drawings. Your most advanced weapons cannot affect Vornax battle armor, Tak announced. This demonstration concludes. We will allow 12 Earth hours for your leadership to reconsider our terms. As the aliens returned to their ship, Sue remained hidden, her mind racing with what she had observed. Where adults saw only the invincibility of the alien armor, Sue had noticed a potential weakness. Something about certain sound frequencies seemed to affect the armor structure, even if for just a millisecond. That night, while military and political leaders around the world debated hopeless strategies, a 12-year-old girl sat in her bedroom with a small electronics kit, testing a theory that might change everything. Sue didn't know it yet, but she had seen what no one else had. The first hint that the seemingly invincible aliens might have a vulnerability after all. The morning after first contact brought dark clouds and a sense of doom to Oak Ridge. Military vehicles formed a wide perimeter around the alien landing site as government officials from around the world arrived for emergency meetings. Commander Tak had given Earth 12 hours to accept Vornax terms. That deadline would expire at noon. Inside the secured zone, General Park and an assembled team of Earth's top scientists and military strategists prepared for their final attempt to reason with the aliens. None of them held much hope after yesterday's demonstration of the Vornax armor's invulnerability. We have to try something else, said Dr. Nam, the lead physicist. Conventional weapons clearly have no effect. What about the experimental plasma cannon? Asked General Park. It's still being tested, but... Bring it, Dr. Nam nodded. At this point, we should try everything. Meanwhile, Sue had spent the night working on her theory. The school remained closed, with most families either evacuating or sheltering at home. This gave Sue the perfect opportunity to continue her research without interruption. Her parents thought she was playing video games to distract herself from the crisis, but Sue was actually designing a simple device to test her observations about the alien armor. At exactly 10 o'clock a.m., Commander Tak emerged from the scout ship once again. This time, he came alone, his black armor gleaming despite the overcast sky. "Your time for consideration is nearly complete," Tak announced through his translator. As Earth reached a decision, General Park stepped forward. "We request more time for global consultation. This is a decision that affects all humanity." Tak tilted his helmeted head. "Delay is pointless. However, I will permit one final demonstration. Your scientists have brought new weapons." He gestured toward the vehicles where teams were unloading equipment. "You may test them now. When they fail, you will submit." Sue had snuck back to her hiding place in the drainage ditch. This time, she brought her modified sound device, a small speaker connected to a frequency generator she had built from components in her electronics kit. It wasn't powerful, but if her theory was correct, it might reveal something important. The military positioned their experimental weapons one by one. First came the high-energy laser designed to cut through tank armor. The beam struck Tak's chest plate, glowing bright enough to make observers shield their eyes. When it stopped, the alien armor showed no damage at all. "Ineffective," Tak stated calmly. "Continue." Next came a railgun prototype that fired metal projectiles at extraordinary speeds. The impact created a thunderous boom and kicked up dirt all around Tak, but when the dust settled, he remained unharmed and unmoved. "Also ineffective," Tak said, his tone almost bored. From her hidden position, Sue watched carefully. She was waiting for the right moment to test her device. That moment came when they wheeled out the experimental plasma cannon. "This weapon is still in development," General Park explained, "but it represents our most advanced technology." The cannon required several minutes to power up. As its components whirred and hummed, Sue noticed the same subtle ripple in Tak's armor that she had seen yesterday. Quickly, she adjusted her device to match that frequency and turned it on. The small speaker emitted a high-pitched tone that most humans could barely hear. Sue wasn't trying to damage the armor. Her device was far too weak for that. She simply wanted to confirm her theory. Through her binoculars, Sue observed with excitement that the sound caused the armor to vibrate slightly at certain points, particularly around the joints and seams where the blue energy lines pulsed. No one else noticed this reaction because all eyes were on the charging plasma cannon. When the cannon fired, it released a blinding burst of energy that enveloped Tak completely. For a moment, hope rose among the watching humans, but as the light faded, Tak still stood, completely unaffected. "Your strongest weapon has failed," Tak announced. "The assessment is complete. The Vornax High Command will now proceed with full planetary occupation. Your resistance capabilities are insufficient to warrant concern." Sue turned off her device and carefully backed away from her hiding spot. She had seen enough to confirm her theory. The Vornax armor responded to specific sound frequencies. The effect was tiny with her weak device, but with more power. As she crept away, Sue's foot dislodged some stones, creating noise. A Vornax sensor drone hovering nearby immediately swiveled toward the sound. "Human child detected," the drone announced in a mechanical voice. Before Sue could run, Commander Tak had moved with surprising speed to her location. One moment he was standing in the field, the next he was looming over her hiding place. "A young observer," Tak said, reaching down to lift Sue by her jacket. He held her up to examine her, as one might inspect an interesting insect. "Why are you here, small human?" General Park and several soldiers rushed forward, weapons raised despite their proven uselessness. "Release the child," Park demanded. Sue remained calm, despite dangling from the alien's grasp. She stared at Tak's helmet, where she imagined eyes might be. "I wanted to see," Sue answered simply. I'm interested in science. Something in her response caught Tak's attention. Most species young would show fear when confronted by a Vornax warrior. Yet this child displayed curiosity instead. Science. Tak repeated. You study our technology. Shu nodded. Your armor is interesting. Tak made a sound that his translator didn't convert. Perhaps laughter, perhaps scoffing. My armor has withstood weapons from 17 worlds. There is nothing your primitive science could understand about it. Maybe, Sue replied, her mind racing. But sometimes children see things adults miss. Tak set Sue down, but kept a hand on her shoulder. This young one will come with me. She will serve as representative of Earth's future generation under Vornax rule. That's unacceptable. General Park protested. She's just a child. A child who shows proper respect and interest in the superior technology of her new overlords. Tak responded. She will be treated well and educated in Vornax ways. Sue didn't struggle or cry. Instead, she carefully slipped her sound device into her pocket. Being taken aboard the alien ship would give her the chance to learn more about their technology and possibly refine her discovery into something that could help Earth. As Tak led Sue toward the scout ship, she looked back at the horrified humans. General Park stepped forward as if to intervene, but with a subtle shake of her head, Sue signaled him to wait. She had a plan, even if no one else knew it. Don't worry about me, she called back to the general. Sometimes the best way to learn about something is from the inside. The interior of the Vornax scout ship was unlike anything Sue had ever seen. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with the same blue energy that lined Tak's armor. The air felt thicker, with a slight metallic taste that made Sue think of batteries. As Tak led her through curved corridors, Sue carefully memorized their path and noted every detail. You will remain here, Tak said, guiding Sue into a small room with a single bench and what appeared to be a viewing screen on one wall. This is our observation chamber where we study specimens from new worlds. Sue nodded, trying to look afraid and submissive while her mind worked rapidly. What will happen to me? You will be studied. Then you will help us understand your species' weaknesses. Tak's helmet tilted slightly as he examined the small human. Your calm is unusual. First, basic biological readings, Minna said, approaching with something like a scanner. Then cognition tests. As Minna scanned her, Sue asked innocent-sounding questions. Your armor is amazing. How does it work? Is it heavy? Can you take it off? Minna seemed pleased by Sue's interest. The armor is a Vornax achievement beyond human understanding. It bonds molecularly with our bodies when activated. And no, we do not remove it while on potentially hostile worlds. So you're always protected, Sue said thoughtfully, unless something disrupted that molecular bonding. Minna paused, her scanner hovering. That is not possible. The quantum resonance stabilizers prevent any disruption. Sue tried to look simply curious rather than excited by this confirmation. What's a quantum resonance stabilizer? Enough questions, Minna said, suddenly more guarded. Now you will take tests. For the next 2 hours, Sue completed various puzzles and memory challenges. She deliberately performed well, but not exceptionally, not wanting to appear too intelligent or threatening. All the while, her mind worked on how she might amplify her sound device using Vornax technology. When Commander Tak returned, Minna showed him Sue's test results. They spoke in their native language, clearly not expecting Sue to understand. The human child shows above-average intelligence for their species, Minna reported to Tak. She asks many questions about our armor. Natural curiosity before submission. Tak replied dismissively. Their scientists did the same before testing their weapons. It changes nothing. Sue pretended to be tired and bored, slumping on the bench while secretly listening to every word the translator picked up. You will join me to witness the arrival of our main fleet, Tak told Sue. Your reaction will help us predict how your species will respond to full occupation. Sue nodded meekly, hiding her alarm at this news. A whole fleet was coming. There was no time to waste. Tak led Sue to the ship's bridge, a circular room with viewing screens showing Earth from orbit. Several Vornax officers worked at control stations while a large communication array dominated the center. "The fleet will arrive within 6 hours," an officer reported to Tak. "Preliminary occupation forces are preparing landing craft." Sue studied the communication array with intense interest. It appeared to use sonic principles similar to her own device, but vastly more powerful, if she could somehow access it. "You see, young human," Tak said to Sue, "resistance is pointless. Your world's fate was decided when we first detected it 3 rotations ago." "I understand," Sue replied quietly. "Can I use your bathroom?" "Do you have bathrooms?" Tak seemed confused by the request, but nodded to a nearby officer. "Take the human to the waste reclamation chamber. Do not let it touch anything." The officer, named Jun according to his translator, led Sue down another corridor. The waste chamber was small, but importantly, contained what looked like sound-based cleaning technology. While pretending to use the facilities, Sue quickly examined the cleaning unit's control panel. "Hurry, human," Jun called from outside the door. "Almost done," Sue replied, as she carefully removed a small resonator component from the cleaning unit and connected it to her device. The Vornax technology immediately enhanced her simple frequency generator to many times its original power. When Sue emerged, Jun escorted her back toward the bridge. As they walked, Sue activated her modified device in her pocket, aiming it directly at Jun's armor. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Jun's armor began to vibrate visibly, the blue energy lines flickering. The alien let out a cry of alarm as hairline cracks appeared across the previously impenetrable surface. "What is happening?" Jun gasped, staggering against the wall. Sue stepped back, watching with scientific fascination as the molecular bonds of the armor began to fail. Small pieces flaked off, revealing the alien's true form underneath, surprisingly fragile-looking with pale skin. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Sue knew she had only moments before others arrived. She turned and ran, not back toward the bridge, but toward what she believed was the ship's communication center. If she could use her device on the main communications array, perhaps she could broadcast the frequency to affect all Vornax armor simultaneously. Behind her, she heard Jun's panicked call. "Commander, the human child has a weapon. My armor is compromised." Sue ran faster than she ever had before, clutching her small device that had just changed everything. The seemingly invincible Vornax had a weakness after all, and a 12-year-old girl had found it. The interior of the Vornax scout ship was unlike anything Sue had ever seen. The walls seemed alive, pulsing with the same blue energy that lined Tak's armor. The air felt thicker, with a slight metallic taste that made Sue think of batteries. As Tak led her through curved corridors, Sue carefully memorized their path and noted every detail. "You will remain here," Tak said, guiding Sue into a small room with a single bench and what appeared to be a viewing screen on one wall. "This is our observation chamber where we study specimens from new worlds." Sue nodded, trying to look afraid and submissive while her mind worked rapidly. "What will happen to me?" "You will be studied. Then you will help us understand your species' weaknesses." Tak's helmet tilted slightly as he examined the small human. "Your calm is unusual for a juvenile of a conquered species." Sue shrugged. "Being scared won't help me." Tak made that untranslated sound again, something like amusement. "Perhaps your species has more potential than our initial assessment indicated. I will return soon." When the door sealed behind Tak, Sue immediately began exploring the room. The bench was attached to the floor, and the walls were seamless except for the door and viewing screen. Sue approached the screen cautiously and was surprised when it activated at her proximity. Images of Earth appeared: cities, military bases, power plants. The Vornax had been mapping Earth's strategic locations. Sue quickly realized she could control the display by moving her hands near its surface. She swiped through images until she found what she needed. Technical diagrams of the Vornax armor. Yes, Sue whispered to herself, studying the complex symbols and patterns. Though she couldn't read the Vornax language, the diagrams were clear enough. The armor consisted of linked plates with an energy field binding them together. Most importantly, Sue noticed something called a resonance stabilizer in the translated text beneath the diagrams. Sue pulled out her sound device and compared its frequency settings to what she was seeing on screen. Her theory had been right. The armor used some kind of molecular bonding that could be disrupted by specific sound waves. But her little device was far too weak to cause real damage. The door slid open, and Sue quickly pocketed her device. An alien she hadn't seen before entered, shorter than Tak, with lighter-colored armor and more delicate movements. "I am Scientist Mina," the alien said through a translator. "I will be studying you." "I'm Sue," the girl replied, trying to look cooperative. "What do you want to know?" "First, basic biological readings," Mina said, approaching with something like a scanner. "Then cognition tests." As Mina scanned her, Sue asked innocent-sounding questions. "Your armor is amazing. How does it work? Is it heavy? Can you take it off?" Mina seemed pleased by Sue's interest. The armor is a Vornax achievement beyond human understanding. It bonds molecularly with our bodies when activated. And no, we do not remove it while on potentially hostile worlds. "So you're always protected," Sue said thoughtfully, "unless something disrupted that molecular bonding." Mina paused, her scanner hovering. "That is not possible. The quantum resonance stabilizers prevent any disruption." Sue tried to look simply curious rather than excited by this confirmation. "What's a quantum resonance stabilizer?" "Enough questions," Mina said, suddenly more guarded. "Now you will take tests." For the next 2 hours, Sue completed various puzzles and memory challenges. She deliberately performed well, but not exceptionally, not wanting to appear too intelligent or threatening. All the while, her mind worked on how she might amplify her sound device using Vornax technology. When Commander Tak returned, Mina showed him Sue's test results. They spoke in their native language, clearly not expecting Sue to understand. "The human child shows above-average intelligence for their species," Mina reported to Tak. "She asks many questions about our armor." "Natural curiosity before submission," Tak replied dismissively. "Their scientists did the same before testing their weapons. It changes nothing." Sue pretended to be tired and bored, slumping on the bench while secretly listening to every word the translator picked up. "You will join me to witness the arrival of our main fleet," Tak told Sue. "Your reaction will help us predict how your species will respond to full occupation." Sue nodded meekly, hiding her alarm at this news. A whole fleet was coming. There was no time to waste. Tak led Sue to the ship's bridge, a circular room with viewing screens showing Earth from orbit. Several Vornax officers worked at control stations while a large communication array dominated the center. "The fleet will arrive within 6 hours," an officer reported to Tak. "Preliminary occupation forces are preparing landing craft." Sue studied the communication array with intense interest. It appeared to use sonic principles similar to her own device, but vastly more powerful. If she could somehow access it. "You see, young human," Tak said to Sue, "resistance is pointless. Your world's fate was decided when we first detected it 3 rotations ago." "I understand," Sue replied quietly. "Can I use your bathroom?" "Do you have bathrooms?" Tak seemed confused by the request, but nodded to a nearby officer. "Take the human to the waste reclamation chamber. Do not let it touch anything." The officer, named Jun according to his translator, led Sue down another corridor. The waste chamber was small, but, importantly, contained what looked like sound-based cleaning technology. While pretending to use the facilities, Sue quickly examined the cleaning unit's control panel. "Hurry, human," Jun called from outside the door. "Almost done," Sue replied, as she carefully removed a small resonator component from the cleaning unit and connected it to her device. The Vornax technology immediately enhanced her simple frequency generator to many times its original power. When Sue emerged, Jun escorted her back toward the bridge. As they walked, Sue activated her modified device in her pocket, aiming it directly at Jun's armor. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Jun's armor began to vibrate visibly, the blue energy lines flickering. The alien let out a cry of alarm as hairline cracks appeared across the previously impenetrable surface. "What is happening?" Jun gasped, staggering against the wall. Sue stepped back, watching with scientific fascination as the molecular bonds of the armor began to fail. Small pieces flaked off, revealing the alien's true form underneath, surprisingly fragile-looking with pale skin. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Sue knew she had only moments before others arrived. She turned and ran, not back toward the bridge, but toward what she believed was the ship's communication center. If she could use her device on the main communications array, perhaps she could broadcast the frequency to affect all Vornax armor simultaneously. Behind her, she heard Jun's panicked call. "Commander, the human child has a weapon. My armor is compromised." Sue ran faster than she ever had before, clutching her small device that had just changed everything. The seemingly invincible Vornax had a weakness after all, and a 12-year-old girl had found it. Sue's heart pounded as she ran through the curved corridors of the alien ship. Alarms blared all around her, their high-pitched wail making her ears hurt. She clutched her modified sound device tightly, knowing it was Earth's only hope. Behind her, she could hear the heavy footsteps of Vornax soldiers in pursuit. "The human child has escaped. Secure all sections," a voice announced over the ship's communication system. Sue ducked into a small maintenance tunnel she had noticed earlier. The space was barely big enough for her, but far too small for the adult Vornax to follow. She crawled quickly through the tight passage, guessing it might lead to the ship's communication center. Commander Tak stood on the bridge, watching the security feeds with growing concern. How did this happen? How could a child disable Jun's armor? "Unknown, Commander," an officer replied. The armor's molecular bonds were somehow disrupted. Jun reports the child had a device that emitted a high-frequency sound. Tak's posture stiffened. "Sound? That's impossible. Our armor is tested against all known weapon types." The child asked many questions about resonance stabilizers, Scientist Minna noted. Perhaps she understood more than we thought possible. Tak slammed his fist against a control panel. "Find her. Now." Sue emerged from the maintenance tunnel into a room filled with humming equipment. Blinking lights and control panels lined the walls, and in the center stood a large cylindrical device that pulsed with energy. She recognized it immediately from the diagrams she had seen. This was the ship's main communication array. "Perfect," Sue whispered, approaching the array carefully. The door behind her slid open with a hiss. Sue whirled around to find Commander Tak standing in the doorway, his imposing black armor seeming to absorb the light around him. "Clever human," Tak said, his voice dangerously calm. "You've caused quite a disturbance, but it ends now." Sue held up her device, pointing it directly at Tak. "Stay back. You think your toy can harm me?" Tak laughed, the sound metallic through his helmet. Jun's armor was a standard model. "Mine is the most advanced in the fleet." Sue backed away slowly, moving closer to the communication array. "Then why are you worried about my toy?" Tak took a step forward. "Hand over the device, child. I will ensure you are treated well when your planet is occupied." "My name is Sue, not child," she replied, her voice steadier than she expected. "And I won't let you hurt my world." "Brave words," Tak said, taking another step. "But bravery does not change reality. The Vornax Empire has conquered 17 worlds. Earth will be the 18th. Sue's back touched the communication array. She could feel its vibrations through her shirt. "Those other worlds didn't have me," she said simply. In one swift movement, Sue connected her device to an input port on the array. Her fingers flew across the controls, applying what she had learned from the ship's diagrams. Tak lunged forward. Stop. But it was too late. Sue had already activated her modified frequency generator, channeling it through the ship's powerful communication system. A high-pitched tone filled the room, barely audible to human ears, but devastating to Vornak's technology. Tak froze mid-stride as his armor began to vibrate. The blue energy lines flickered wildly, and tiny cracks appeared across the surface of his helmet. "What have you done?" he gasped, his voice distorting as the armor's systems failed. Sue watched in amazement as the mighty commander's invincible armor began to crumble. Pieces flaked off and fell to the floor, revealing the alien beneath. Without his imposing armor, Tak looked surprisingly vulnerable, tall and thin with pale blue skin. "I found your weakness," Sue explained, her voice calm and clear. "Your armor uses molecular bonding stabilized by quantum resonance. My device generates the exact counter-frequency needed to disrupt that bond." Tak staggered backward, his armor continuing to disintegrate. "Impossible. A child could not. Adults only look for what they expect to find," Sue said. "I noticed something different. When your armor was hit by certain sound frequencies, it vibrated slightly. No one else was looking for that because they were focused on trying to break through with force." Throughout the ship, alarms changed their tone as the communication array broadcast Sue's frequency to every corner of the vessel. Over the intercom, she could hear panicked voices reporting armor failures in all sections. Tak fell to his knees, his once mighty armor now reduced to fragments around him. His translator still worked, though it flickered erratically. "You have doomed your world. The fleet will still come." Sue stepped closer, no longer afraid of the alien commander. "But now we know how to fight back. And I'm broadcasting this frequency to Earth right now using your own communication system." On the ground outside the landed scout ship, General Park and his team watched in astonishment as their monitoring equipment picked up a strange signal coming from the alien vessel. One of the scientists, Dr. Nam, studied the readings with growing excitement. "It's some kind of sonic pattern," Dr. Nam explained, "and it's being transmitted on all frequencies, including our own communications channels." "Can we trace it?" General Park asked. "Better than that," Dr. Nam replied. "We can replicate it. And look, we're receiving data packets alongside the signal. They contain, my God, these are technical specifications for the alien armor." Inside the ship, Sue stood over the fallen commander. "You thought Earth was weak because we couldn't damage your armor. But strength isn't always about having the best protection. Sometimes it's about finding new solutions to problems." Tak looked up at the human child who had single-handedly defeated the most advanced technology in the Vornax Empire. "Who are you?" he asked, genuine confusion in his voice. "I'm just a kid who likes science," Sue replied with a small smile. "And who pays attention." The ship shuddered as something struck it from outside. General Park had ordered a surgical strike on the vessel's landing gear to prevent it from taking off. "They're going to rescue me now," Sue told Tak. "And when your fleet arrives, we'll be ready." Tak's translator gave one final flicker before failing completely. In his own language, he said something that Sue couldn't understand, but his tone conveyed a mixture of respect and disbelief. As the ship's doors were forced open by Earth's military forces, Sue picked up a piece of the shattered alien armor. It was lightweight yet had been nearly indestructible until she discovered its secret weakness. She carefully placed it in her pocket, a souvenir of the day a 12-year-old girl defeated an alien invasion. General Park was the first to enter the communication room, weapon raised. He stopped short at the sight of Sue standing confidently beside the fallen alien commander. "Sue," he exclaimed. "How did you?" "I found their weakness," Sue explained simply. "Their armor can't handle certain sound frequencies. I used their own communication system to broadcast it throughout the ship." As soldiers secured the room and approached the defenseless Tak, Sue turned to General Park with determination in her eyes. "We need to prepare," she said. "They have a whole fleet coming. But now we know how to fight them." General Park nodded, a mixture of pride and amazement on his face. "Lead the way, Sue. Earth's defense is in your hands now." The skies above Earth buzzed with activity as the planet prepared for the arrival of the Vornax fleet. 5 days had passed since Sue's discovery, and those days had transformed the world. Nations that had fought each other for centuries now worked together against a common threat. Scientists everywhere worked around the clock, building on Sue's breakthrough. Sue herself had become the center of this global effort. The 12-year-old now worked from a special laboratory set up in what had been her school's gymnasium. Military officers, scientists, and government officials came and went, all seeking her insight. Despite her youth, Sue had become Earth's most important defender. "The frequency emitters are now positioned in orbit," General Park reported, pointing to a map showing satellites surrounding Earth. "We've also equipped fighter jets and ground installations with the technology." Sue nodded, checking calculations on her tablet. "The shift should cover these approach vectors," she said, highlighting areas on the map. "The Vornax will try to find holes in our coverage." In the corner of the lab, Commander Tak sat observing. Without his armor, he wore a simple Earth jumpsuit that looked strange on his tall, thin frame. After his capture, Tak had made a surprising decision. Rather than remaining silent, he had offered to help Earth prepare. "Your assessment is correct," Tak said, his new translator device converting his words clearly. "The fleet commander will test your defenses before committing to a full attack." General Park still didn't fully trust the alien, but Sue had insisted on keeping Tak involved. "He knows their tactics better than anyone," she had argued. The tension in the room grew as radar operators reported the first signs of the Vornax fleet entering the solar system. 27 massive ships, each carrying thousands of soldiers, were approaching Earth. "They will be in range within 3 hours," a technician announced. Sue took a deep breath, trying to stay calm despite the weight on her shoulders. "It's time to broadcast my message." Earlier, Sue had recorded a warning to the Vornax fleet. Using information from Tak, she had prepared it in their own language. The plan was to send this message before activating the frequency weapons, giving the aliens a chance to retreat. "Broadcasting now," the communications officer reported. On the main screen, they watched as Sue's face appeared, speaking words in the complex clicking language of the Vornax. The translation appeared below. "Attention Vornax fleet. I am Sue of Earth. Your scout ship has been captured and your armor technology has been compromised. We now possess the frequency that disrupts your molecular bonding. We have no wish for war, but we will defend our world. Retreat now, or we will be forced to disable your fleet." The room fell silent as they waited for a response. After several minutes, the screen lit up with the image of a Vornax, much older than Tak, with elaborate markings on his armor. "I am Supreme Commander Han of the Vornax Empire," the alien stated. "Your claims are noted but suspect. No species has ever penetrated Vornax armor. Surrender now, and your major population centers will be spared." Sue glanced at Tak, who nodded slightly. The Supreme Commander was following standard Vornax protocol, dismissing threats while offering limited mercy to encourage surrender. "Perhaps a demonstration is in order," Sue suggested calmly. General Park gave the order. "Activate targeted emitter 1." One of the orbital satellites focused its beam on the lead Vornax ship. The frequency weapon powered up, sending invisible waves that would disrupt the molecular bonds of any Vornax armor in its path. On screen, Supreme Commander Han suddenly staggered. His perfect armor began to crack visibly, pieces falling away even as he tried to maintain his dignified posture. Behind him, other Vornax officers experienced the same effect, their once invincible protection crumbling. "Cease this attack," Han demanded, his voice now tinged with something new to Vornax communication. "Fear," Sue signaled, and the weapon was deactivated. "That was just one emitter, affecting only your command ship. We have hundreds positioned around our planet, and your armor cannot be modified quickly enough to resist this frequency." There was a long pause as the Supreme Commander conferred with his officers off-screen. When he returned to the communication, his demeanor had changed completely. "How did you discover this weakness?" he asked. It was the child. Tak stepped forward, facing his former commander. She observed what our scientists never considered. That sound could disrupt the quantum resonance. Han's translator conveyed his shock. "A child. One of their young defeated our greatest technology." Sue spoke directly to Han. "We don't want to fight you, but we won't be conquered either. I propose a different arrangement." For the next hour, an unprecedented negotiation took place. Sue, with guidance from Earth's leaders and Tak's insights, outlined terms for a peaceful relationship between Earth and the Vornax Empire. By sunset, the agreement was finalized. The Vornax would withdraw their invasion force. In exchange, Earth would share certain resources and knowledge, but as equal trading partners, not as a conquered world. "There is one more condition," Sue added at the end. "Commander Tak remains as ambassador to Earth. He has helped us understand your ways, and he can help both sides build trust." Supreme Commander Han considered this request. Tak's failure led to this situation. By our laws, he should be punished. By your laws, perhaps, Sue countered. But he has shown wisdom in adapting to new circumstances. Isn't that a valuable trait for an ambassador? After another long pause, Han agreed. "Very well. Tak will remain as ambassador. The fleet will withdraw beyond your moon's orbit while formal treaties are prepared." When the communication ended, cheers erupted throughout the laboratory. People hugged each other, crying with relief. Earth had faced its greatest threat and emerged not just intact, but with a new place in the galaxy. General Park approached Sue as she sat quietly, looking tired but satisfied. "You've saved us all," he said simply. "How does it feel?" Sue thought for a moment. "Strange. Yesterday I was just a kid who liked science class. Today I helped negotiate Earth's first alien treaty." Tak joined them, his thin face showing what Sue had learned was a Vornax expression of respect. "You saw what no one else saw," he said. "Among my people, such perception would make you an honored scientist, regardless of age." "Maybe that's the real lesson here," Sue replied, looking between the human general and the alien commander. "Sometimes it takes a different perspective to find solutions that seem impossible." Outside the laboratory windows, the evening sky glowed with unusual lights as the Vornax fleet repositioned. For the first time, these lights no longer represented a threat but a new beginning. Sue yawned suddenly, reminding everyone that despite her remarkable achievements, she was still a child who needed rest. "Can I go home now? I have a science project due next week, if school is still happening after all this." General Park laughed. "I think your teacher might accept this as your project instead." As Sue was escorted home to her worried parents, news of Earth's victory spread across the planet. The story of how a child's curiosity and intelligence had saved humanity would be told for generations. And in orbit above Earth, the Vornax fleet began preparations not for conquest, but for the first peaceful diplomatic mission in their empire's history. All because a supposedly weak planet had produced one remarkable child who saw what no one else could see.